Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, this is Carrie Brown, and we have an estrogen overload in the Smarter Science of Slim studio today. We have Dr. Kathy Britell. Yay!
Yay!
And we're all wearing pink, even the Bailor.
I'm trying to bring my estrogen support as well with my pink shirt.
Because today we are talking about...
We're talking about one issue that a number of people on the support group have, which is feeling as though their program has kind of hit a wall. And I'm a little bit stuck. I'm a little bit stalled. How do I knock this? How do I knock this loose? The story is often like this. Somebody who has generally been very health conscious for a long, long time meets up with Jonathan Bailor and the Smarter Science of Slim and starts eating sanely, exercising eccentrically, and will lose significant inches and pounds, start feeling better, and it's really like magic. Hey, I've been there. I know
Me
this.
too. It is magic.
I know this. It's like magic, you know. You stop struggling, you start eating, you stop exercising your heart out, and you start having a life, and your body just gets better. Well, for a lot of people, and maybe almost everybody, that has happened fairly rapidly over the first, say, 3 to 6 months of the program. And then at some point, that change, that body change, sort of starts to slow down. The person might become, was dropping sizes, was dropping pounds, maybe dropped about 10% of their body weight, or 15 or 20% of their body weight even. And then they're eating sanely, they're exercising eccentrically, nothing has changed, but the change in their body just stops.
So we get to the plateau thing.
We get to the plateau phase. For another very small group of people, usually women, it seems some people have been doing it, and we'll talk about these separately, I think, for a few weeks or a few months and aren't seeing any change yet. But let's start with that person who has had a significant change doing the Smarter Science of Slim program, really adopting the lifestyle, becoming very, very good at it, and then seeing a plateau in the changes that they've seen in their bodies. What do you think of that, Jonathan?
Kathy, I think the key thing to keep in mind here is that for any given level of sanity or just intelligence of our diet and exercise approach in general, there is an endpoint, and that endpoint is different for everybody, right? So a couple things to keep in mind. One is, if all you want to do is essentially be healthy and fit, you can eat sane foods, exercise eccentrically, and go about living your life, not really think about it, and you will be fit and healthy. And that's the level of effort you would need to be fit and healthy. And keep in mind that a 70-year-old woman who lived through the Great Nutritional Depression, as I like to call it, or the time period where our government told us to eat in a way that that did cause irreparable damage to our metabolism and put fat cells on our body that we can never get rid of, she can achieve a level of normalcy for her that is perfectly healthy and looks wonderful, but that normal isn't six-pack abs. That's not normal. So if we just want to eat sane foods and exercise eccentrically and enjoy our lives, that will get us to health and fitness. But it won't get us to these unnatural levels of body fat that we see so publicized in the media and are generally found in much younger people. So the question is, again, if we just want to be healthy and fit, we can do that very, very, very simply. And I think when we find that new resting point, that may just be an indication of what we can expect if we want to take a more casual approach to health and fitness. And if we want an abnormal level of health and fitness, we might need to take a little bit more abnormal of an approach. And that's just, I think there's quite a few people that are like, I'm good, I'm good. And maybe you don't see it as a plateau. Maybe see it as as long as your health markers are okay, as a wonderful, healthy place for you to achieve dietary serenity and to enjoy your life.
And it is, I think it's important to note that it is different for everybody.
Yeah.
There's so many other kind of genetic and hormonal things going on. Nobody's got the same makeup.
Oh, can I tell you a story?
You can.
About an airplane ride?
Oh, is this the Dr. T joke you or Dr. T?
No, it's not
Mr.
a
T.
joke. It's a story. It's so interesting. About in 1985, I was commuting between here, Seattle and New York quite a bit in my job. And on one of those trips, I got to, my seatmate was Mr. Bill Gates. And nice fella. He's really, really a nice.
And this is the Bill Gates, not
the Bill Gates.
the
Yeah,
Bill Gates.
I think he started this thing called Microsoft.
I know about that place.
Yeah, and lovely man, and really smart, And he always rode in coach at that point, and I always rode in coach because I ride in coach. But you know who else was
still riding?
I'm still riding. But you know who else was on the plane? It was Mr. T. And Mr. T wasn't, remember.
He was not in coach.
He was not in coach. He was up in the front. And as we were getting off, you know how the people come out of the front and into the back and kind of interdigitate as they go out of the plane. And Bill and I were kind of sitting in the front of the
coach.
Tourist coach pod. And so we filed out with, and I was looking at the two guys there, Mr. T and Mr. Gates. And Mr. Gates, nice looking young man, exactly the same height as Mr. T. Two nice looking young men in their 30s. And Mr. Gates probably was fit looking, weighed about 135, maybe 140. Mr. T was quite fit looking, made about 250, 260 maybe. So two genetically totally different body compositions, both healthy, but with very different body makeup,
absolutely.
And a way different brain. And a way different way of looking at life.
Absolutely.
And Bill would never be able, whatever he did, he'd never be able to make his body look like Mr. T's and vice versa.
And Mr. T would never look like Mr. Gates. So there's just a rather extreme example of the fact that we're genetically quite different. Also, when you brought up the difficulty of say, people who have gained and lost a lot of weight during their lives in terms of losing fat. Age is a significant issue in terms of being hormonally challenged as we all grow older. And I think with older people particularly, and also people who have been very significantly overweight or obese, have musculoskeletal issues. They might have hip arthritis, might have shoulder issues that will prevent maximal exercise, at least for a time until they can get going on that. So there are lots of things that keep a certain genetic type or people who have a history of significant weight loss and gain from becoming the fitness model.
But isn't it true, Kathy, that there's other things as well, like, stress well,
so
can
sleep, all
play
kinds of
with
things,
things.
yeah.
Sleep can interfere with it. Medications that you're on for other things can interfere. There's just so many other little things
Exactly.
that may be interfering with your particular set point.
Yeah, there are medications, for instance, diabetes medications. A lot of people who are overweight have diabetes, and they can get in the way too. So, what do you do? What do you do to get yourself unstuck if you feel like there's more distance that you want to go?
So just before we get into the what you do, I just want to kind of recap, because I think this was an awesome, this discussion we just had is a great capturing of the issue. Let me just try to distill it down here really quickly. So for any given level of, let's say, intelligence of exercise and sanity of eating, that will get you to a place, to a set point, for lack of better terms. And where that, let's say, a level 1 effort. Level 1 effort will get you to level 1 set point. Level 2 effort, and effort doesn't mean time, it just means like amount of sanity, amount of intelligence exercising, will get you level 2 results. But even that results scale, that varies by person. So if Mr. T does level 1 and Bill Gates does level 1, two very different things are going to happen. And if a 65-year-old woman who has yo-yo dieted 7 times or 17 times and is on insulin and is very, very stressed, she puts in level 2 effort, and a 22-year-old male who is naturally muscular and has never been overweight puts in level 2 effort, they're going to get dramatically different results. That doesn't mean either one of them is better or worse. It just means for any given level of effort, it does have an endpoint. And that endpoint is a function of a lot of genetic stuff that you have no control over. In fact, researchers estimate between 45 and 75% of body composition is genetically predetermined, much like your height. You can try as much as you want to be taller. You just can't be in some ways, or you'd have to do really weird, unnatural stuff to make yourself taller.
And then there's the environmental stuff on top of all of that.
Exactly.
That's right.
So hopefully that's helpful framing. And now, Kathy, sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Well, the second part of the question was, then you've decided that, okay, so it's going to be tough for me. It's, but I'm not quite where I want to be. Mm-hmm. How do I get that level? Yep. I really feel like I need to. Dr. Kathy. Okay, Dr. Kathy's wearing size 14 right now. Mm-hmm. Dr. Kathy'd like to be wearing size 12 or size 10. Mm-hmm. She thinks that's more appropriate for her. So basically, how do I get to that point when I've been kind of where I am for the last 3 months or so?
Well, and you did mention just before the show that you had this experience at the very beginning. You saw this dramatic result, and then you saw a slower but continuous.
Right.
Like, so
right.
you are still
right.
a pound, month after month after month.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing about that is that if you look at the studies of any other weight loss, quote-unquote, program, those people, with all the drugs and all the expensive, dangerous things that people take for weight loss, mm-hmm. usually those people lose between 5 and 7% of their body weight mm-hmm. Over, say, 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then over the next year, they'll gain 2 or 3% back. Mm-hmm. Well, most of the people on Smarter Science of Slim program have lost much more than that in terms of their body weight and, more significantly, waist circumference.
Absolutely.
And healthy muscle gain. So, and what I can see is the people who have been on this now for a year or a little more now are not gaining that weight back. And that is huge.
Yep.
That's absolutely huge.
So everything you said is spot on, and I also really want to shine a light on the point you made of, if, to be clear, you can be making progress. The human mind is not good about seeing gradual change. So hypothetically, if you were gaining a 0.5 pound of muscle a month and losing a half pound of fat per month, in a year, you would look dramatically different. Dramatically different. Dramatically different. But in any given one, like, you would probably actually never notice it. Because over the course of a year, now, if someone who, maybe you started this in January and you stopped in, but not stopped, but then someone saw you in January, someone saw you in December, they probably wouldn't even recognize you. But you would not perceive that difference. So keep in mind that, so a couple things. One, you may think you're plateaued and you're actually not. So that's, and I think that's kind of the position you're in, Kathy, where it can seem like you're plateaued, but when you actually take a step back, you're not. It's just that we're not seeing results as quickly as we'd like. The speed of the results you get, and again, like at level 1 effort, or level 1 sanity and eccentricity, you'll get level 1 results. The bottom line is, in the old world, in the classical theory of fitness and health, the recommendation would be eat even less and exercise even more. And obviously that's not what we want to do. But we can make something that sounds similar but is totally different. You've got to eat even smarter, and you've got to exercise even smarter. Like, if you want more results, historically people would have told you, you just need to do more or eat less. You've got to take it smarter. This is going to be a little weird, but there's different levels of sanity, right? Like, when we talk about nutrient density, even within I just want to illustrate what being super sane would be, right? So if you wanted to be super sane, for example, green vegetables, spinach, kale, these leafy green vegetables are very, very different from a nutritional perspective than like a carrot, for example. Not to say that carrot's bad, but there are like really, really sane vegetables and vegetables which are not as sane. Fruits are an even better example. Like, the difference between a blueberry and an apple is startling from a sanity perspective. And then let's look at our nutrient-dense proteins. I'm going to go way, like, super sane, wild-caught salmon, organic grass-fed beef liver, grass-fed beef. Those things are much different than, like, conventional ground chuck. Totally different.
Rack of lamb with all the fat.
Totally different. And then when we get to the like even nuts and seeds, right? Focusing like coconut. Coconut is an entirely different thing. Like, it's a medium chain triglyceride, whereas if you're getting most of your fats from peanuts, which are actually legumes, again, there's ways that we could say, like, someone who is eating the super nutrient dense greens and they're eating like 12 servings of those a day, and they're eating the most nutrient dense sane proteins in the world, and they're eating only the most optimal fats, which are like avocados, cocoa, coconut, flax, chia. That is a very different way of eating than someone who eats 2 or 3 apples per day, some conventional fattier meats, 5 servings of vegetables. Like, that's still a sane person. They're still doing great. But understand that there is, obviously, as we can see here, there's an ocean of difference between those two people, right? And there will also be an ocean of difference in terms of results those people would see. So you don't need to do more. You would just need, you don't need to do more in terms of volume. You do, however, need to, essentially, you're just turning it up. Like, if you want more results, you essentially have to give more effort, but that effort comes in the form of eating higher quality foods and doing even higher quality exercise and getting more sleep and being less stressed and all those other kinds of things, and drinking more green tea. You get out what you put in. And not everyone's going to get the same amount out because of genetic predetermination, as well as if you smoked for 40 years and then you tried to run for a marathon, it's going to be a bit harder because there's been some damage that's happened to your body. If you've weight cycled repeatedly, it's unfortunate, but some things have taken place in your body that sadly are going to be some baggage that you're going to have to carry hormonally for a long time, if not forever. Like, it's unfortunate, but I tore my pec. It's deformed now, and it will be deformed forever, and that stinks. But sometimes in life, when we hurt our bodies, they're just hurt. And we can do the best with what we've gotten. Like, if you see me in a shirt, you probably wouldn't be like, Jesus, Jonathan, you look deformed. But if I, like, do something very specific...
Trust me, people, he does not look deformed.
He looks...
He looks just fine.
But I mean, actually, that's a pretty good analogy, right? Like, if we tear a muscle or break a bone, we understand that we might not be able to do what we used to do, and we might not be able to do something that someone who's never been injured has been able to do. If we've been metabolically injured, it's going to take a bit more effort to get to a place we would have been to if we were never injured. And for people who's never been injured, they're going to have a different experience.
So really and we've talked about this over and over on previous podcasts, is it depends where you're at and what your goal is.
And how much you're willing to put in. So I think a lot of people don't, I mean, not only have I like dabbled is maybe not the right word, not only have I spent a lot of time in the science space, but I spent a lot of time in the like professional physique, bodybuilding. Like, that's an area that it was a hobby of mine for a really long time, and I still have a lot of ties into it. People who have abs are either genetically freaks, like it's 0.0001% of the population, or their entire life, like almost every action they take has to do with their goal to achieve that, right? Just like if you want to be a marathon runner, you don't casually become a marathon runner. Your life revolves around giving your body the ability to run 26 miles without stopping. If you want to have six-pack abs, in many ways, that's like running a physique marathon. It is going to take a lot of effort. That effort will not include starving yourself, nor will it involve excessive exercise, but it will involve formulating your diet with a level of sanity that is really not interesting for most people.
Right. So you've got to be clear about what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and you also got to be clear about where you're at.
Right.
And you also got to be clear about time frames. Like Kathy said, studies, if you're measuring in terms of anything less than months, again, let's go back to the broken bone analogy. If you broke your ankle and like every day you're like, is my ankle healed? Is my ankle healed? Is my ankle healed? No. Like, especially if it was like a compound fracture and you have to have pins put in it. Like, if your ankle is demolished, you might not be able to walk on it normally. Well, if you're young, you'll be able to walk on it sooner, but especially if you're older, and especially if it's been broken before, it might take a year.
And it might never get back.
And it
to
might
100%.
never get back. Exactly. And you'll probably have to do more physical therapy than a young person would have to do. And this is all like, I mean, some people gave some feedback that they like the Smarter Science Slim podcast because it's real. Like, I know this might not be what people want to hear,
but it's the truth.
And we know it's the truth. Right? Like, we know it's the truth. And anyone who says anything different is lying to you. It's a lie. That's not how the body works, right? Anyone who says, oh, you blew your knee out, well, I can have you back up and running next week. That person is, that's not how the body works. Oh, you want to plant some corn, not that you should because it's insane, but you want to plant some corn. Well, here's some magic seeds that will grow corn in 2 weeks. Corn doesn't grow in 2 weeks. It takes longer. Oh, you can have a baby in 2 months. No, it takes 9 months to have a baby. 9 months. If you want to transform your metabolism, it takes time, and it takes more time the more damaged it is, and it takes longer the more damaged it is. Off my soapbox.
But I just want to say that emotionally you have to get your head round where your limitations that you have no control over are.
Yes.
If you have weight cycled and you can never get to the same place as someone who hasn't, mentally you're going to drive yourself nuts if you don't come to terms with the fact that there's limits that you have no control over.
Absolutely.
And the sooner you emotionally get that, the easier it will be.
No, we can keep going. Go.
One of the things that I wanted to address, and I think it's something that we don't talk about nearly enough, and as much grief as I gave you over a couple of the guest podcasts, and public grief too.
I welcome public grief. Only in front of you, though.
I think that actually Dr. Amen and Jill maybe brought up the same important thing, particularly about women. Mm-hmm. Women oftentimes do not let go of their caring, their stress. It's built into us because as mothers, we need to be able to multitask. We need to be paying attention to that baby 24 hours a day. So we're hardwired to always be attentive and be attentive to everything and everybody who could possibly need us in this world. And what that does is it often causes stress. And the important thing, particularly for women, men tend to do this anyway. Men go out and play golf. They go out with their buddies. They go out for a beer after work. Or some other sane drink. They will often program restorative activity into their day. Women don't often do that, and some men don't do that anyway either. But I think it's very, very important, in my experience, very important not to think about your eccentric exercises and your high-intensity interval training to be the only activity that you do during during the week, so that the rest of the time you're sitting in front of your computer screen or sitting in front of the television or doing chores. You really need to have some restorative activity, fun, yoga. You talked about yoga in the last podcast, which was very wonderful. Other restorative activities, taking a walk, being with your friends, listening to music, dancing, making music, doing these kinds of things, I think will tend to de-stress you. And also, there is some evidence that in people who tend to shut down, even when they're eating plenty of protein and non-starchy vegetables and doing the eccentric exercise, that doing some sort of restorative activity that engages their mind, makes them happy, will also tend to keep the metabolism going more. So this is something to really, really pay attention to.
There you go, girls. We've all got permission from Dr. Kathy to go get a pedicure.
Yes, pedicure, massage. Massages are good. Be kind to yourself, but also have fun.
Absolutely.
Go out and have some.
And I will give a hat nod here to a concept of self-love and to appreciate what one has, because again, I think we live in a wonderful country. I love America, and I love how America is so empowering, because we live in it's called the land of opportunity, and I think it is because we have a wonderful opportunity here. I think sometimes though that sentiment can be taken a little bit too far. Let me give an example. Not everyone can be as good at basketball as Michael Jordan. They can't. Not everyone can be Michael Jordan. Like, you just can't. And I think sometimes we think that having a very, very low percentage of body fat is just something where if you just try hard enough, you can do it.
Well, that's what we've been fed for the last 40 years, right? If you just try hard enough, you can be a professional athlete. Like, we feed this to young kids all the time. Like, just try your hardest and you can be whatever you want to be. Yeah.
That's not true for things that involve especially your body. Like, I can't play in the NFL. It is physically impossible for my body to move fast enough or for me to move enough weight to be an effective player in the NFL. I cannot. So, but that's okay. I'm good at other things. And I think if we all focus a little bit more on, there are great things each of us can do. And that might not include having veins coming out of our shoulders. And that's okay.
Focus on your strengths, lovely people.
And focus on being healthy and enabling your eating and exercise habits to enable you to manifest the beauty that is you. Don't focus on the things that you aren't as good at. Let your eating and exercise empower you to do that which makes you uniquely beautiful.
Dr. Kathy is blowing kisses at Jonathan. It's so cute. She's so happy here.
But anyway, I mean, because that's, you know, in short, celebrate yourself. Understand that for any given level of effort, you will get a given result. And if you want more results, you're probably just going to have to increase your sanity and increase your eccentricity, and understand that different people are going to achieve different results with those different levels based on their genetics and based on what they've been through in their lives, and based on, like, if you're on certain medications, if you're getting certain levels of sleep, and if you have certain levels of stress.
And celebrate every little tiny piece of progress, because this is not about perfection. It's about moving towards it. And
celebrate, this is a long podcast, but I don't care. There's other types of success to keep in mind. For example, I actually recorded a podcast recently, which I'm excited to share soon with, I think her name's Laura Dawson. She's the low-carb editor for About.com. And she describes her, like, she doesn't think about food anymore. She doesn't think about food. Like, she just eats, and she just goes about her life, and she's active, and her health markers are phenomenal. Like, she was diabetic, I think. She's no longer diabetic anymore. Understand that there are people in the world with six-pack abs who are so neurotic and unhappy because their self-worth is tied to their preservation of that six-pack. So if you are healthy and you are happy, you are in a better state than thousands of neurotic people out there. So, my personal take. So, anyway.
It's all good. You're all wonderful. The fact that you're trying is brilliant.
Kathy's so happy.
I am totally thrilled with just what you said. It's absolutely wonderful.
Big endorsement from the doctor here.
From Dr. Kathy. I want her over.
Absolutely. I was very critical up until now.
Well, I've redeemed myself from some of the bonus podcasts. Right?
And it was all worth it. You wore that pink shirt. It had the desired effect. Well done.
Awesome. Well, hopefully that helps. I'm curious. Please let us know. I mean, obviously, I check the support group. I read it, and I'm curious to know what people think. Hopefully this is helpful.
Yeah, well, I think it is helpful. I think there's more talking to be done. We've had some really, really good feedback from everyone on the support group, and particularly a lot of people have been addressing this question in a lot of different ways. So I think this is very, very helpful. And we'll keep talking about it.
Well, and at the risk of beating a dead horse, I just want to make one more point. The Smarter Science of Slim, as described in the book, which is now out of print, but there will be another book, which will be even better.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. But there's a bunch of, obviously, I mean, there's no shortage of content out there that can teach people how to be sane and get eccentric. This is a lifestyle which is much more akin to achieving that beautiful, normal, non-neurotic body that is extremely healthful, because you're not worried about it. You're just eating, you're exercising, it's chill. When you take that kind of an approach, this very chill, you know, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're not, have celebrations every once in a while, do your eccentrics once a week. I mean, this is going to be very easy, for lack of better terms, once you get into the swing of things. And if you want more, that's cool. Just do some more. And it's not going to be that easy, but that's okay. And then if you want to downshift and make it easier, I mean, I just sometimes think, you know, we get out what we put in. And if what we put in is a very casual approach, we can't expect, like, anything more than casual results. But if we're really like, I'm going to freaking do this, then, and when I say I do this, we talked about what that means, you will achieve better results. Because, I don't know, I mean, like, at least sometimes when I talk to people, they're very happy with what they're doing, but what they're doing is moderate. They're moderately sane. And when I talk to them about eccentric exercise, they're like, yeah, I do it, and I'm pretty sore. That kind of an approach is fine, but you can't come with that approach expecting to get ripped up. Like, that's okay, but just understand that to get ripped results, you'd have to kind of take a ripped approach, which is not that laissez-faire, chill approach. It's a bit more intentional and deliberate and thought requiring. So, love it.
Very good.
It's awesome.
Eat more, exercise less, but do it smarter.
And make sure you have some fun.
Absolutely. And if you can't, Carrie, what do you always say to me when we leave?
Be good, and if you can't be good, be careful.
Exactly. I hope it was as fun for you guys as it was for us. Talk with you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like the podcast and if there's other ways we can help you, please join us in the Smarter Science of Slim support group, which is freely available at the Smarter Science of Slim website, smarterscienceofslim.com. There you'll find all kinds of free recipes and success stories and just all kinds of fun stuff, like how to help your kids go sane and just great community content.
And just one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and up onto Amazon.com and leaving us a review, and then going over to Facebook and liking us, we would hugely appreciate it.